Well, hello, hello. You have had a lot of me today. For those of you who saw that life had thrown me some real big challenges and some lessons and contemplation, and I really wanted to speak to this today because a lot of the time it's going on in the collective, and I want you to really stay with me and learn how to swim in the deep water. Okay, because we have to be compassionate to ourselves and with others. We can't stay in the shallow end forever, and it takes practice to get out of that. And first of all, I just want to acknowledge that you've done a lot of soul work. We all have. We're in this transformational work together, and we can't stay in the shallow end. We can't stay in on the beach where the water's just sort of paddling up and washing your toes, because all it does is maintain our status quo in this sort of vast stretch of deep work that we need to do if we're going to actually come back to our humanity and our human kindness. And we need each other to change things in a good way. Hi, Jenny and Paul and Anjana and Sharon. It's just like we have to return to being the guardians of our own personal hygiene and the way that we're treating ourselves, so that we can show other people who are hurting how to stop hurting. And Mother Nature's in trouble right now because of us. So yes, there's this beautiful rise in consciousness that's happening in all sorts of ways, shapes, and forms at the moment in the life transformational industry. And some of them are very similar and others are very unique. But it's happening in the shallow end. And we have to find ways to awaken to our souls in the I am present. We are finding ways. This is where we've been working on, and we're heading into, I think, another 9-year cycle of Chiron and the wounded healer energy, where we need to do our piece in the big scope of things and know who we are and why we're here and what we need to do in a good way to contribute and make a positive impact in the world. And yes, we're learning and we're healing our individuality and our unique genius, but we're not doing a very good job, are we, of maintaining and activating, really cultivating the collective consciousness. Yes, we're learning a lot of important things. And I'm using the swimming pool analogy because everybody knows there's always a shallow end and there's a deep end. And it can sometimes seem overwhelming because there's just so much shifting in that shallow end for all of us. And there's a lot of value there in the personal work. And at the same time, we have to really look at what we're doing collectively. There is this awareness, as I said, that we're doing good work, and at the same time the world around us has gone freaking mad, hasn't it? It's not transforming for the greatest good. So what we're doing collectively, to the planet, to the animals, is a problem. What we're doing collectively as a human family to each other is a huge problem. And the rationale that we're using to justify the pain that we're inflicting on the lives of others and animals is a big problem. So while there is this incredible awakening, which is so beautiful individually in people around the globe, I have incredible clients that are making huge strides, but it's also very suspicious at the same time, because there's this collective insidiousness happening all around the world, not just in Africa. Hello, Kadri. So, the deeper message, and what I'd like to invite you to do with me, is to just notice this and say, okay, I'm in the shallow end. let me look at what it means to walk and would swim into the deep water where your feet don't sit on the floor anymore. And how do we apply everything that we've known to go deeper into the reasons of what's happening around us in the collective? So, for me personally, what I discovered in asking these questions again, when I had this altercation at Home Affairs this morning, and amongst my clients, is the cultivation that's very unintentional of a communal soul, right? You have the small soul and the big soul. And I've always been very deep into the individual soul work. That's where I talk a lot, understanding what is your unique genius? Are you bringing it to the world? Is this the best vehicle to do it in? And I ask those questions for myself and how I can manifest that and support others in that space. And I had this realization in a lot of the doing of this, and recently you've been talking about this We Too movement, is that there is this whole other aspect of my soul that needs to be developed, and probably yours. And I'm not talking about the part that longs for community, that needs it, that is hungry for community, for belonging. I'm really talking more about the part of you that's on the other side of not just feeding this hunger, but really learning to live in a way that you're no longer hungry for everything out there, because you're filled up. Your light is shining bright. And it's difficult. Most people I speak to are struggling right now just to figure out how to feed their own soul, their true unique genius, what they're here to do, and what has heart and meaning for them, for you, for me. And I'm saying, yes, and there's a whole lot more. And I don't mean that there's more that life is going to give you. I mean that there is more that life itself is asking of us, all of us. And there's these much deeper reasons for what's going on within all of us. And so this very deep water where you can't touch the bottom, dam is pretty scary, or, a lake or in the ocean, you can't see the bottom, and we have to surrender to the water itself and swim in it on its own terms, to go with the tides, to know when a wave is going to dump you, or when your feet are no longer going to stand on the floor. And this is really where our efforts, no matter how noble they may be and how well-founded and well-meaning, as we think we are, when we start moving into this deeper water, it's going to bring up, it did for me today, again, a whole nother caliber of my own shit. It doesn't matter how much work you've done before. There's always going to be a whole nother caliber of work to do, which is why we need to arrive in this deep water with skills and tools, because you can't touch the bottom and do the work. You have to be willing and ready to do the work and continue to surrender. And I think that's a piece that maybe I don't convey very well in a lot. And I have, hundreds of these conversations on my SoundCloud and my YouTube account, where maybe it was just misunderstood because there's been a lot of resistance and pushback, and a lack actually of understanding this spiral pathway, and that the quality of the experience out in that water that's too deep to put your feet down on is very different than splashing around in the shallow end, I mean, we all know that. And all these skills that you're working so hard to manifest and get a sense of yourself and your purpose, it's a skill, and you're able to start working with them, but you have to start swimming into the deep end. This is the invitation and the challenge actually that I'm committing to myself. And this is how we can begin to do this. We have to be doing this together, and none of it's sequential. It's not like you have to completely fix yourself, not that you're broken, before you can do these other things, or when you get somewhere, then you're going to do things. This is about how are we able to responsibly approach both the I am and the collective consciousness, where all this craziness is playing out, and we're part of that. And this is really guaranteed to bring up the aspects of yourself when you go into the deep end that you don't want to look at. This work is not for the faint-hearted. I'm talking about having enough rigorous and successful work, dealing with your own shadow work, dealing with your own shit, that you can actually begin to take on your part of, for example, cultural issues or collective shadows. And it has to start from the root, where you're deeply rooted into your own values and your own sense of self and your own sense of worth. And then look at the systems that are devaluing people without any sense of merit or reason every single day, that you have the ability to really deal with the internalized systems of oppression that are actually at the root of our own inner critic. That's the part we don't want to look at. All these sort of internalized systems of oppression that actually are at the root of your ability or inability to trust fully the messages that you're receiving from spirit and receiving from your body, and trust the steps that are necessary to apply them. And a lot of my clients have been saying, can I trust my messages from spirit? Can I trust my body? And how do I apply it? And when you start getting into that deep, dark water, what I'm saying is that we need to learn to swim and look at the even deeper reasons why we don't trust it, to surrender into it and play our part. And why, the deeper reason of why. Is this making sense? It's great to see you all here. Hi, Kelly. So my point is that there is a lot of work to do after all the personal work. And it's not just peeling the layers of an onion. These are two very different waters. The light water in the shallow end and the dark water in the deep end. And I think it's important to understand that there's always going to be more work, and we have to do the training daily and apply it and acquire the skills and the willingness, the commitment to move out of being rigidly attached to form and be able to begin to innovate in a way, create, while we're still doing the functionality of the pragmatic day-to-day stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that is not really intentional, that we avoid. So we have to look at, okay, we've got the familiar skills, but I'm talking about this We Too movement, where we need shared skills as well as our unique ones. If we're going to work together, we need to share our skills and hold ourselves to a certain standard of how we're using those skills. And then I think finally we need a means by which we stop bypassing spiritually, physically, whatever it is, and have that thing that needs to be done. It's inherent in every transformational system, every spiritual system, every shamanic system, everything. It's in the natural laws, and human beings will always find a way to bypass, because we are the only species that lack the basic, boring, foundational, not sexy practice and the skills that support recognizing that everything that truly transforms us touches back to this place within ourselves, getting to the root cause of our own trauma, so that we can feel rich, robust, and able to get to that place and operate in that place well. And look at where there's bypass. It's bypassing that place within us that is mostly run from this crazy prefrontal logic. It's not in our head and our psychological world, but it's a place where we carry all these moments of our choices and the moments of how we're exercising our own free world for better or for worse, consciously or unconsciously, and whether or not we're actually under duress. And that basically describes childhood and the human department of passports that I went to today, and a lot of other places. So when we're moving from the shallow end to the deep end, we need to do this in a very aware, realistic, informed, and skillful way. Okay, it means we have to cultivate a sense of humor. I always say you have to be willing to be the joke of your own reality and laugh at yourself, because either you can choose to laugh or you can curl in a heap and cry. Our own life, our own choices, the power of choice is ours and nobody else's. And we have to find a way to be okay with really recognizing, and I'm not talking about people that are used to blaming and shaming and judging ourselves, okay? That's in the personal realm. That's in the personal work. And that needs to be transcended, right? When you're not out of that shallow end. But I'm talking about when you've moved past that, when you've healed that and you've resolved that and you're training and you're looking at it and you're moving in the world and recognizing in that movement into the deep end that this is the place that you carry a level of hatred that is exactly the same as that person over there that I judge as being a bad person. That really woke me up today. I was in total judgment of where I'd internalized a whole lot of systems like racism. When we don't see ourselves as racists, we don't actively hate. I don't go out there hating, and yet there is this internalized system that does drive our actions. And when we can bring it into the light, out of the shadows, then we can work on it. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. And we're not there yet, willing, able, ready, committed to actually address this in a way that is true transformation. I know we're getting there, we're trying. I'm not the only person that's talking about this, but I do have an invitation for you today. And that is to join me in this. I'm putting work out there all the time that is encouraging and inviting us to go there now, not tomorrow, not just now, as we say in Africa. And I would love it if you joined me, because there's so much in this dark water too that is really beautiful and really exciting. And it's very dangerous. It's uncharted water. That is where we have to share our skills and our standards of using it and our ability to hold ourselves to our commitments together, to have eyes on us, to call each other on our shit and work together in a loving, compassionate way, or we're all going to drown. And it's not just about drowning yourself. It's about who you take down with you. I grew up in swimming pools, and, life-saving was something that I got my certification in. And it's probably one of the most frightening things when you're out in there and there's a drowning person and you're trying to help them and they try and drown you. Not intentionally, but it happens all the time that the person that's drowning and panicking actually drowns the rescuer. And oftentimes it's more than one person, because there's other people out there trying to save that person. So, there's this fundamental principle in all this kind of work that's very dangerous. Your feet can't touch the bottom. You're floating in the water. You need to care for yourself first. And then lucidly determine, do I have the skills to assist this other person? You can't do that if you haven't done your own work. And I'm not saying I know everything. I'm right in the deep end with you, but you have to be aware of, is this person going to take me under? And are we all going to respond to that drowning person in a way that nobody drowns while we're still out of the water in our process? Or are we all going down trying to save that one person? So big breath. And this is my question, my inquiry today for myself, and I'd love to share it with you, because this is part of my point about moving into the deep end, is that we need to be doing this with people who are actually futuring, that are looking ahead and considering these possibilities, that, this naivety of, oh, everything's going to be fine. I can just bury my head in the sand. I won't say anything. I won't speak out. Doesn't cut it anymore. All that visionary thinking is great, but it's one of the reasons why the law of attraction doesn't work, because there is a huge multifaceted shadow there that needs to be addressed a lot more skillfully than it is at this time. So that I think is where I'm going to leave that for today. But I think what we need to really look at is that what we're doing isn't enough. It's not going to get us into a place where there's a sustainable planet. You know, look at the climate change and what's going on with it, with nature. You know, what we're doing is good work. It's necessary, but it's not enough anymore for, you know, this huge collective family to do what it needs to do, not just for our own lives, but for life of other species, including the earth and the oceans. So, questions, insights, comments, let me know. We need to keep doing what we're doing. We have to develop our individual souls, our sense of purpose, and how we're going to bring it to the world. Number two, we need to keep doing things that join us as individual souls on the same mission and support each other in doing aligned right action. We have to do it. You can't see it when you're in there. When you're in the blind spots, when you're in the shadows, you cannot see where you have fallen off the wagon, so to speak. So we need each other. You know, this is what I'm inviting you to come into with me, is how can we do more? You know, how can we serve more? How can we give more? How can we start looking for different ways to heal our own individual brokenness and the brokenness of humanity that's so visible everywhere you turn? Because anyone with an active heart, and I know that you are, if you're in my tribe, you are a kind, caring person, and you're feeling the pain of the earth, of other people, of the animals, of each other, your personal pain. I'm right in there with you. And this is what I want to do, is invite you to explore some different ways that we can start engaging our hearts and our minds to create better. You know, we are the ones we've been waiting for. As cliche as that sounds, that's it. We can't wait for somebody else to sort it out. And it starts with the small, tiny acts of generosity. Go clean up the Sprite, the river. Go and take litter off the beaches. What choices are you making with your money? What choices are you making with your vote? You know, what choices are you making with your own personal power? Because you can make some very real world choices. Educate yourself, do the training, understand the deeper issues, whatever issues are catching your attention, like Home Affairs did for me today. You know, educate yourself, and educate yourself about yourself. Get to really know yourself, because there is no end to the depth of a human soul. We came in as light and love, and we've forgotten. Go back to self-reflection, meditate. You know, pay for the guy's groceries in front of you, and don't tell him. Whatever it is for you, you know, I invite you to really look at what can we all do together and separately to really consciously choose to cultivate our community soul along with our own individual soul. That's what I invite you into. And tomorrow I want to talk about shame, healthy shame and toxic shame, because whenever we learn from our mistakes, there's often healthy shame there, and there's a lot of toxic shame out there that is also, along with the judgment, killing the earth, killing our very soul. So I'm going to be back in here sometime tomorrow to speak to that. Have a great rest of the day or night wherever you are, and please post in the comments and the questions. Comment, questions, insights. Leave them in this comment pod of Facebook, and share this with other people. Let's start building a We Too movement that is based in love and compassion and allowance and generosity, because that's the only way I can see that we're ever going to create better. All right. See ya. Bye.